Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back to another episode of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third. I am the second. We are live here from Coachella Valley, from Indio, California. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on today'scalifornia.com, live on today'scanada.com, all over the Twitterverse, all over the metaverse, all over the universe. We are a sports talk show, national interactive sports talk show, where we just basically talk about the national events and the top stories that are going on in sports. Of course, we're going to talk today about college football because we were not here yesterday. So we will talk college football, the national championship, give you our feelings on that. Joe Judge has been fired. He has been let go. We'll talk about Joe Judge. We'll also talk about some of these NFL matchups that we got going on, and we'll take a look at the NBA standings right now. And right now, the Bulls are number one in the East, and you got the Suns number one in the West. So it's looking a little dicey. But without any further ado, let me bring in my main man, Rudy, Ramon, Reyes. Rudy, I love you. How you doing today, man? I like the scarf.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Always bring a taste of style to the show, and we're always about style. Style's good, and some style is bad. But today, the style's good.
Yeah, for sure, man. I got my little tie-dye sweater on, so
Matches
you
your
got the
beard,
matching shoes.
I like that.
Yeah, my man. My man. All right, so let's talk about this college national championship. We saw finally Nick Saban, who has 7 championships, by the way. We saw him finally lose to one of his understudies, to one of his former assistant coaches, and Kirby Smart. It was a pretty bad game for Alabama. Of course, we know that coming in, they didn't have Mechie. They ended up losing Jamison Williams to a torn ACL in the first half. So Bryce Young really had none of his main weapons. He had Latu, the tight end, and he had Bolden, but he didn't have chemistry with those young receivers in Hall and Brooks. And Bryce Young, he looked okay. 35 of 57, 369 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Didn't play like the Heisman Trophy Bryce Young that we know. But what basically happened is Georgia took advantage of the man-on-man matchups. They took advantage of the running game. They were able to get the running game going a little bit with Zamir White. He had 13 carries for 84 yards. Stetson Bennett took care of the football. He did have that fumble, but he looked really good. Stetson Bennett made some great throws down the stretch. 17 to 26, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns. Of course, I mentioned that he had the fumble loss, but he bounced right back after that and made an incredible throw to the end zone. And we were able to see Georgia defeat them 33-18. Now, my takeaways from the game was just that Stetson Bennett, what a great story. We know that he started off, he was not recruited. He's a walk-on. He played junior college. They didn't even want him to really be the starting quarterback. They had JT Daniels waiting in the wings, kind of over his shoulder the entire season. A lot of times they don't ask him to do too much. They're just a running team, and they play a lot of defense. And that front seven gets after it. So Stetson Bennett hasn't been asked to do that much, but he had to really step up and make some key throws. And I thought that was one of the best stories. So it was really it gave me chills to see him crying at the end of the game after that interception by Ringo.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed watching him play. He really put the game on his shoulders. He wasn't expected to do, well, basically anything at all whatsoever. JT Daniel was the perennial starter on this Georgia line. The guy under center is the most important position on the field. And I take nothing away from the defense because without the offense, you have no defense. Those guys are going to be tired on any given down. And unfortunately, for Alabama, that seemed to be the case because once Georgia got going in the second half, you see Stetson Bennett, you've seen some of that running game, you've seen their ability to really push that ball down the field, moving the chains. And it's great to see a guy that you didn't really think was going to be there at the last possible minute. He was so down on himself after that interception, and he just could not believe it himself to look in his eyes and to see those gator
fumble,
tears. Yeah, see those gator tears falling out of his eyes, thinking that he gave the game away. Was not really the case at all. I mean, you've seen Georgia, who had been extremely good on defense, especially third down, keeping that line of scrimmage to their own, and they looked really, really good. They were able to penetrate, get in the backfield. They had this last 3-second sack on Jones in the backfield, and I almost feel sorry for the guy. Almost feel sorry for him. Only the reason why I don't is because they're going to be at it next year. this has been a story and the tail of the tape the entire season. Can Georgia get back? If so, do they face Alabama? And does Alabama take care of business again? As we know, Nick Saban has consistently with 7 championships.
Ooh, 7 championships.
He's just an absolute beast. How can you top that? Well, Kirby Smart definitely outsmarted. He outsmarted. I had to throw that in there, but he outsmarted Nick Saban, the coaching staff, and they were really able to get after Bryce Jones. I wasn't expecting this, to be quite honest with you. It was a low-scoring game. It was a yawner. Wake me up before halftime. Maybe I'll catch some commercials. I was more excited about that Katy Perry video than I was the actual game at first. A lie.
Me too. And the first half was boring. The first half was boring. It was a snoozer. I mean, it was field goal after field goal after field goal, and the action really didn't pick up until the second half. And yeah, you're right. They were able to get after Bryce Young. They had 4 sacks on him, and we know that Bryce Young has been able to be kind of a magician in that pocket when he's been pressured. And we saw him, not be able to get to the outside all the way, and we saw him get sacked 4 times in key situations, and constantly on third down they were not able to convert. It seemed like they had an issue with the play calling. Bill O'Brien, but bless his heart, he's had a good season calling plays all season long, but he's just struggled with the limited amount of weapons that they had. And I mean, it was a really good game for Georgia, and shout out to Georgia. Tip your hat to Kirby Smart, finally overcoming, beating his boss, and Nick Saban will be back next year.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's no doubt about it. And they finally get that proverbial monkey off of their back.
Yeah, it's been like over 40 years since they won a championship, right?
It's been a long time, absolutely. Yeah, it's
since Herschel Walker.
Like forever since Herschel Walker was a part of the Bulldog crew. So good. Congratulations, Georgia Bulldogs. It's going to be a sad offseason to not see football anymore in the college ranks. But you know what they say, there's always next year. Saban's going to be there.
Absolutely. And they've already opened up the Vegas has already opened up what they call the way too early top 10 for college football for next year. And they got Alabama number 1, and they got Georgia. I believe Georgia's number 3. So it's just terrible. So it's just like, man, they can't get their respect, but they certainly did have a great game. And you got to think that if Mechie and Jamison Williams were available, you got to think that maybe the outcome would have been different. If Bryce Young had all his horses in the stable, then I think the outcome would have been much different. But it's football. Injuries are going to occur. COVID's going to occur. All these variables are going to occur. So, hats off to Georgia. And let's move on. This is Go Long Live. I am Barry Long I'm Barry Long the second. He is Rudy Reyes. And we are live on CoachellaValley.com, Today'sCalifornia.com, Today'sCanada.com. We want to thank Craig Campbell really quick for the platform. And let's talk about Joe Judge, because we spoke about Joe Judge extensively last week. We know that he had his rant after he was asked in a press conference basically if he was worried about his job security. And he went on this long rant saying, golf clubs in front of players' lockers, you ain't seeing that crap. You ain't seeing it, okay? People making plans, you ain't seeing it. Planning vacations. And then he just continued to say, put his foot in his mouth, saying that there were players that played on his team last year that were calling him twice a week, begging to come back. There were players that were going to be free agents next year in his office every week, begging to be able to stay. So we just knew that, with that team, that culture that's been set, the way that they were just losing game after game, and that wasn't the case. And we also saw on this past Sunday that they were in a situation on 2nd down and 11 and 3rd down and 9 from their own 5-yard line. And what they did was they came out and basically did a QB sneak just to give the punter some more yards, so he could kick the punt. And basically that's laying down and giving up. And we saw a lot of people go at Joe Judge. They were really extremely upset with that call. The fans were pissed off. Twitter was going crazy. So John Mara eventually made the decision that it was time to get rid of Joe Judge. And we all knew that it was time to get rid of Joe Judge after we saw that damn press conference last week. They said that he was safe. He goes in there, does a press conference. He starts talking his way out of a job. And then on Sunday, he basically seals his fate. I mean, it was like this dude was trying to get fired. Like, who the hell runs a QB sneak on 2nd and 11? I mean, first of all, it doesn't matter if you win this game. I know they were only down by 3, but it doesn't matter if you win this game because the season's over. And it's not like you're trying to tank to lose the game so that you can maintain the number 1 overall draft pick. It is just ridiculous to me that they did it twice. So so John Mara makes his decision. They get rid of Joe Judge. We know Dave Gettleman he retired, but he really got fired, so he refired. But what are your thoughts on Joe Judge being let go as the head coach of the New York Giants?
Well, to your point about that first overall draft pick, that goes to Jacksonville. And unfortunately for the New York Football Giants, they're going to be, I think, second or third, which is not going to really allude to a whole lot. There are a lot of questions going into the offseason. Do they keep Daniel Jones? Is he the guy under center? 6th overall draft pick. He hasn't turned that curve. He hasn't been that guy. To be quite honest with you, he probably should just resign being a backup quarterback, because unfortunately, Danny Dimes is going to be broken into 2 nickels. And give me some pennies for your thoughts. I mean, it really boils down to
I like that one. I like that.
To where this really goes to, and that's the shoulders of Joe Judge, who epically failed time after time. Situational football, not his forte. Mara has seen enough, but the bigger question is, from an organizational standpoint, we've talked about this before, Barry, that when you look at organizations that are subpar, that don't have the right personnel, that don't have the right backbone, that do not have the right drafters. When I say drafters, I mean the guys going in, the scouts, to make those decisions, to say, look, this is what this guy can do. He's a beast. He's a freak. He's got a 6-foot lateral. He's got a cone time of 4.15. Whatever the numbers are.
He's DK Metcalf, basically.
Essentially, yeah. Those are Metcalf type of numbers, but you need the athleticism on that offensive line, starting at the offensive tackle, the guards, the quarterback. And to be honest with you, their best bet, and I hate saying this, and I hate seeing teams losing guys like Daniel Jones to horrible ran organizations, but that's unfortunately what the New York Football Giants are. Horribly ran organization. I don't point out organizations because they're doing so well and so carefree and la-di-da. No, this is about doing the right thing, getting the right people in the right positions to play the game, because you play to win the game, not lay down on 2nd and 11 or 2nd and 24 or 3rd and 5. You want to go for it, and Joe Judge doesn't have the mentality to do it. I don't think he ever will. His best bet is just to exit the NFL and go to the NCAA.
Yeah, it was despicable what we saw occur, and I was just flabbergasted to watch it. And then they zoomed in on the fans, and you could see the fans were visibly upset. And they were like Giants fans. I mean, they were in New York, but it was just ridiculous, man. And it was almost like, does this guy really want to keep his job or not? Like, is this guy serious? Like, after all this week, after all the criticism that we've heard, regarding Joe Judge and him being on the hot seat. I mean, this is the time where you said that you wanted to implement this kind of mentality, this New York style, this New Jersey, that kind of region, like, the tough mentality. And you're laying down on 2nd and 11 and laying down on 3rd and 9 when you've got Jake Fromm out there who's played meaningful football this season. And it's not like it's you and I out there playing quarterback. They have the punter out there because they don't have any options at quarterback. They have Jake Fromm, who was a formidable quarterback. He's not the best, but damn it, it was flabbergasting. So maybe Joe Judge wanted out. But my question to you right now is: now we've got all these coaching openings. We've got vacancies in Denver. We've got vacancies in Jacksonville, Miami, New York, Minnesota. Which job right now do you think is the most desirable? Because you want to go into a situation where you have a good relationship with the GM. You want to go into a relationship, or you want to go into a situation where there's a good quarterback, where you know that you're going to have a chance to win football games. You hope that there's good skill position players and there's good O-line and D-line. But what coaching job right now do you think is the best one, Rudy Reyes?
There are actually 2. One of those would be the Minnesota Vikings. I know we've spoken about Eric Bieniemy being one of those guys in that conversation for Minnesota, but I think Denver has a lot of great upside, especially with the ownership possibly gaining control of this within the next couple of months. Worst case scenario, I'll be honest with you, Denver certainly ranks up there as a number 2. You had a new regime. You no longer have Fangio. You don't have Shermer. You don't have the GM. You have different guys that are being interviewed, and this is like a hiring frenzy right now in the NFL, especially in Denver. Zimmer's had very limited success while in Minnesota. But if there were any two teams, it would be either Minnesota or Denver. There's no difference. Well, there's only one difference between the two teams as far as where they play. Denver's outside. Minnesota's in a dome. In a dome. Not a real dome guy. I'm like an outdoors guy. Hit me with 35, 40 degrees with like a 5-degree wind chill, and I'm good. As long as I'm bundled up, I'm good to go.
Not me, man.
So
not me.
I'd
probably in a
dome. Yeah, I'm sure. But I'll take Denver or Minnesota. Either one of those positions would be fantastic. They have all types of great firepower, not only from an offensive weaponry standpoint, but quarterbacks. I'm more of a fan of where, and really in discussion, where Drew Lock's going to go, right? We always have that question. He's drafted by the Broncos a couple years back. He hasn't turned that curve either, but he's definitely turned more of a curve than Daniel Jones, even though both had shown to be very, very high up there, except for the head scratcher of why would you take a quarterback out of Duke to be your 6th round pick?
I know, man. Come on,
Duke
man.
isn't known for football.
This is not the NBA draft. This is the NFL draft. Like,
that's right. Exactly.
For sure. I never was a believer in Daniel Jones either. But if I had to choose the best position to go, the best head coaching vacancy right now, I would probably go to Minnesota, because you got Dalvin Cook there. You got a pretty good O-line. You got an underrated defense, but you really got some weapons at the wide receiver position. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, who hopefully he can get injured and stay healthy. But and Kirk Cousins is not that bad. He's
not that bad, but he's a guy who
he's top 20, maybe top. Yeah, he's a guy like
at 32 teams. That doesn't say a whole lot for him.
Well, shout out to Kirk Cousins. But yeah, I would go to Minnesota. We got a comment from Liddy Hopkins. It's in Spanish. I'm not going to read it all, but you can comment as well if you have anything to say about sports. Please comment. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on Today'sCalifornia.com, live on Today'sCanada.com. Now, let's move on, because we got some NFL matchups this weekend, and I'm really excited about the playoffs. And I mean, this is where it is. This is when you really got to get in. And we saw, of course, the Raiders are going to be playing against the Bengals. And the Raiders and Bengals, this is a matchup that is a rematch from earlier on in the season. We saw the Bengals defeat the Raiders handily. And basically, they were able to run all over them, and they were able to stop the run. Joe Mixon had 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. And they didn't even really need Joe Burrow too much in that game. Joe Burrow only had 148 passing yards. So, but he protected the football. And in that game, you had the Raiders. The Raiders did have Darren Waller. We do not know if Darren Waller is going to be healthy, and they're going to need him. But who do you like in this game, and why?
There's one guy who's going to be chased down, and that's Jamar Chase. The guy has just been absolutely electric for the Cincinnati Bengals all season long. It was shocking that I didn't see him get a Pro Bowl nod, but he is a rookie, so maybe they're shoving it for next year. I'm not sure, but Bengals and Joe Burrow, those two guys have been absolutely lights out this season. But more importantly, it's really about the defense, and I don't think they're being talked about enough winning the AFC North. But this is a one and done scenario for any team in a wild card, whether you're on the road, you're going to the better seed, whatever the case might be, you're a one and done scenario. So this is 0-0 across the board. I really like where the Raiders are actually trending. I think Derek Carr, certainly one of those guys where the conversation at the end of the day is going to be about him, where he's going to go in the offseason. And of course, lots of speculation. Where does he go if he doesn't get the job done while on the road in Cincinnati? It's a tough place to play. You're in the jungle, so to speak. Of course, I don't see any lions, tigers, or bears, but you are going to see a lot of Bengals. So, I'll be honest with you. I like Cincinnati in this matchup. I just think that they have more weapons, and they could really mix and match when it comes to offensive play calling. But then the defense is really going to get involved early and often. They're going to see the Raiders are going to see some really well-designed looks defensively disguised blitzes. You're going to see edge rushing. You're going to see it all. DBs are going to play relatively tighter than just sitting at 5 yards. They're going to be blanketing the slant wide receivers. This could be a really good game, but at the end of the day, I got to pick Cincinnati. They just are on. They're in a momentous state, so I'm definitely going to pick Cincinnati in this matchup, despite being in Fresno. Of course, everybody knows where Derek Carr came from, and that's Fresno State Bulldogs.
Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati's been playing well all season long, man, and they've had some hiccups. They lost to the Jets. They lost to the Bears. So they've lost to some bad teams. They've lost to the Browns twice. So we've seen them have some hiccups on Sundays, and we've seen them put up big numbers like they did against the Ravens twice, 41 points. And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase probably have the best wide receiver to quarterback connection in the NFL besides Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. And it is just amazing some of the plays that they're able to make. You would think that Jamar Chase is like 6'5", like built like a Randy Moss with some of these plays that he makes. But he's not. He's actually 6 feet, 6'1". So he's not even the biggest receiver, not even the fastest receiver in the league. But for some reason, it just works in Cincinnati. They got T. Higgins firing on all cylinders. They look really good, man. But this is the tournament that it's one and done, like you said. And if you have a bad game, then you're done. And I just like what the Raiders are doing with their riding high of this win that they just had against the Chargers. They've had a lot of adversity this season with Derek Carr. Having to go through all of it. He lost his number one receiver, his number one deep threat, Henry Ruggs. But before that, he lost his head coach, who has been kind of like a mentor and a guy that he thought was going to be there even longer than he would be there. then they have the
click and send, and you're done if you're John Gruden.
Oh my goodness! And then you got the quarterback with all the guns on IG, who's supposed to be one of their best corners in the game. And then John Madden dies. They've had situations and they've had a lot of adversity, and they seem to always overcome the adversity. And I feel like this is just a trap game, one of those trap games like the Jets for the Bengals. And I know that the Bengals have beat the Raiders earlier on in the season, but just like we saw last night with the national championship, we saw that Georgia, they went back. Obviously, they went back and watched the film, but they had a couple things that went their way. And maybe some stuff will go the Raiders' way on Saturday. But I am definitely picking the Raiders to upset the Bengals, just simply because the Bengals haven't been there yet. Joe Burrow, I know that they asked him how many you played in national championship game, you played in big games. Is this going to help you moving forward? And then he came out and said, we played basically in playoff games the last 5 weeks of the season, so I feel like we have experience. No, sir. Playing on Saturday when there's nobody else playing and you're the only game on prime time, this is a bigger stage. So I do like what Derek Carr is going to be able to do. I like the way Rich Bisaccia has that team playing. I think he should not be the interim head coach. I think they should remove the interim title and give him the head coaching job, because he was simply able to keep this team afloat and get them to the playoffs, despite all the adversity that they've been through. So I'm picking the Raiders in a close game, and you're picking the Bengals. We've got that marked down. Now, we've got another game, Rudy Reyes. And this one I'm probably more excited about than any other game that we have in these playoffs, because these two teams, this is a rubber match. We've seen these two teams play twice already. The first time, the away team won. Both times, as a matter of fact, the away team won. But the first time, the Patriots were able to defeat the Bills, only throwing the ball 3 times with Mac Jones. And they basically ran it down the Bills' throat, and there was nothing the Bills could do about it. The Bills came out the next game. They were able to run the ball a little bit more. They ran a lot more as far as handoffs are concerned. They gave their running backs some more carries. Josh Allen, he got loose for a couple times. He threw the ball well. He looked fantastic. Looked like MVP candidate Josh Allen. So the rubber match, this is going to be it, man. This is going to be interesting. We know that the Patriots have one of the top defenses in the NFL right now. We know that they've had a couple bad games here and there, but they are still one of the top defensive units in the NFL. So who do you like for this game and why?
Well, actually, there's a couple things. I want to take note of the fact that Josh Allen himself is from a little city called Fireball, which is about 45 minutes from Fresno.
Fireball, like the alcohol?
Fireball. No, Fireball.
Okay, like Hardball.
Yeah, Fireball. So Fireball and Fresno are 45 minutes apart, roughly.
Okay.
And both Derek Carr and, of course, Derek Carr born and raised here in the Central Valley, as well as Josh Allen, who will be the guy under center for the Buffalo Bills. They'll be playing in Buffalo with a better record of 11-6. And New England is.
He struck me as a Midwest kind of guy. No, he's from Cali.
Yeah, he is a Cali guy, but you know what? He played in Wyoming, in Cheyenne. Josh Allen.
That's why I'm thinking.
Exactly. So I was there a year after he had gotten
Okay.
drafted by
Okay.
the Buffalo Bills. And Josh Allen, nothing but great things to say by Coach Bull, and of course, hashtag Go Wyo. I want to throw this out there because you talk about a rubber match. This is who's going to have the biggest hit in handball. Of course, this is now football, but a handball is purely made of rubber between the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. At times, Buffalo has looked relatively, I don't know, they've been out of sorts. Even playing at home, they didn't look quite aggressive, especially on third down. And Josh Allen made it almost look as though he can't get out of the pocket and be the guy under center that you want him to be in times during the game where you're thinking to yourself, wait, what is he doing? And why is he doing that? So you really have to question Sean McDermott and the situational football along with what Josh Allen does on any given down. Of course, when you look at the other side of the ball, Mac Jones, the only quarterback in last year's draft that actually has a winning record and a winning percentage because of the team that he's on, thanks to Bill Belichick, who's been doing this since Pangea.
Since Ben.
So if anybody knows what to do and how to do it, it's going to be Bill Belichick, who's helped put them in position to be where they're at right now. But this, again, is a one-and-done situation. I'm going to have to go with Buffalo. They're at home. They won their last couple of games. They've been playing relatively better, especially on the defensive side of the ball, clamping down on wide receivers, not giving any type of 5+ or maybe a bump and run situation. They'd be really playing them tight, especially in man coverage. They've been doing great in the secondary. DBs have been, sneaking out with these quarterbacks of where they're going to throw the ball rather. And with that, come up with the interception, or at least batting the ball down. They've been great at the line at batting the ball down this season. I think 13th for batted ball. So they've been doing relatively well. But I have to go with the home team. I do like Mac Jones. Everybody's talking about the mac and cheese earlier this season. And I like mac and cheese. I'm not going to lie. Put a little pepper on and call it a day. But I got to go with Buffalo. And I think the Bills will find a way to get it done. I just like how they're playing right now. If this could be a tight one because we know how they've played one another throughout the entire season. None of the games have been anything close to 50 points -7, or anything of that nature. It's just going to be a close game. It's in Buffalo. Temperatures are not friendly. Field goal kicks are not friendly with winds up to 35 miles an hour. But I like Buffalo. They're going to keep it on the ground. They're going to have their times where they need to throw the ball. But I'm going to have to take Buffalo in a real close one here, 24-21.
Okay, yeah, and I'm also going to go Buffalo. I'm going to go 19-16. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be one of those field position kind of field goal kind of kicking games. Even though there's going to be a lot of wind, it's going to be a really cold game. But yeah, you made a good point. If you had to choose between the coaches, you're going to want to choose Bill Belichick over Sean McDermott. But when it comes down to it, if you have to pick the quarterbacks, I'm going to pick Josh Allen over rookie Mac Jones. And I love what Mac Jones has been able to bring to the table as far as stability at the quarterback position. After Tom Brady leaves, they don't really know what they're going to do. They have Cam Newton. That really doesn't work out. But Mac Jones really does provide that stability long-term for them. And I think that he's going to have a long career, good career. He's going to be in the playoffs a lot. This is just going to be his first taste. But I feel like Buffalo is ready to go. And those fans are going to be going crazy up there at Bills Mafia, and I'm just expecting the Buffalo Bills to win a close game. The Patriots their defense is gonna keep them in it, but I really do like Buffalo in this game as well. Now, real quick, before we get
keep their shirts on. If they keep their shirts on, then they should, they should help a win.
Hey, what's with these NFL players always going out with these sub-below temperatures, wearing no sleeves? Like, come on, man! At least put on one of those performance sleeves. Like, I mean. I know it's like a tough guy thing, and I know once you get out there, you start sweating around. But no, man, if it's like under 20 degrees, bro, you're tripping.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about the NBA standings right now as they currently can stand. The Chicago Bulls, man, are really the surprise for a lot of people. Chicago Bulls are 27-11. Of course, we know they made all those offseason acquisitions. They went out and got Alonzo Ball. They got Alex Caruso to back him up. They got DeMar DeRozan. They've had Vucevic on the team. They've had Zach LaVine balling his tail off for a long time. But now it's all just seeming to gel together. You got the Nets right there, who are looking really good. They got Kyrie Irving back, for the away games for now. But right now, the story of the East is really the Bulls. What do you like about the Eastern Conference Final standings?
I watched that Bulls Detroit game yesterday, and Detroit they're very young. They have a young roster. Bulls have been on a roll as of late. I mean, and we've seen in the Western Conference how a surprise team in the Memphis Grizzlies, and I'm not saying the Grizzlies are going to take it all the way, but they're like the Bulls in the sense of giving it to Ja Morant, right? So we see a lot of underlying players that aren't big names. This isn't, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan situation for the Chicago Bulls of '95. This is more like where the Bulls are right now, where they will foresee themselves in the future a lot sooner than later, year in and year out. Just have to keep the chemistry, have to keep the formula working. And right now they're playing solid ball. I mean, there are so many slam dunks yesterday against this poor Detroit team. It was just absolutely despicable to see the Detroit get waxed. But I do like the Nets. I like where the Nets are right now at 25-14. I think they're playing really good ball, even with the part-time player in Kyrie Irving. Maybe you can get me a side of fries with that. They look at the Miami Heat, and I think to myself, man, Miami's always in the thick of it because of coaching. Right,
Yeah.
They draft the right guys.
Eric Spoelstra is great.
Yeah, he's been doing fantastic. So it's not as if anybody's out of it. And this is all about mid-season grades. These are about the guys who you may never have heard about, but those that you want to hear more about, right?
Yeah.
So we look at the Milwaukee Bucks, who won it.
Yeah, you can't count them out.
No, you can never count them out, especially playing ball. They're around the 600 mark. But you can't take that out of Antetokounmpo's, viable hands.
Say it again.
Driving to the basket. Antetokounmpo.
I don't think that's how you say it, but.
Well, I'm not going to call him Auntie, so forget that. I already have a few of those.
This is called Giannis, so just call him
Giannis. Hey, I try the last name at least, if nothing else. But
I think it's Antetokounmpo.
Okay, fair enough. Hopefully he's not going to shoot me if I get his last name wrong.
Man.
But Giannis, you can never go wrong with having a guy like that on your roster. Again, this is just mid-season. This is not indicative of where we see the Bucks actually ending up. I think they'll end up in the top 2, top 3. Right now, they're kind of out of that in the 4th, but this is mid-season, so this isn't time to throw in the towel by any means. And the 76ers are right there. I just think they're playing through a lot of tumultuous times with the Ben Simmons situation, and I think that's still kind of lingering in regards to him just not playing. I think if Ben Simmons was able to get his mind right, he'd be able to be one of those key role players, and maybe the 76ers would make even a better push. But right now, that's the top 5.
We were expecting them the process to play out and them to be so good, and they just have never. It just never turned into fruition. But all right, so real quick, let's talk about the Western Conference. Now the Suns are at the top. The Warriors are playing great basketball. They just got Klay Thompson back. That's going to be fantastic, to see once he gets really, his full legs underneath him. But it was really cool to see him, be introduced, in front of those fans that haven't seen him play in 2 years. But you got teams like the Jazz that are going to be right there in the thick of things too. I like the Grizzlies. I like what the Mavericks are able to do. And you got the Nuggets hanging around, but the Lakers and Clippers are the teams that are really like kind of those sleepers that if they're able to get into the tournament and they're able to, just at least maintain the 7 or the 8 seeds, then anything can happen and all bets are off.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. The Phoenix Suns are certainly right in the mix, and they may be able to run it back. It appears as though they have all the tools, all the weaponry, mindsets, attitudes between Booker and CP3 really kind of playing in its prime time. I really think this is Chris Paul's prime time in the way that they've been able to get that ball up and down the floor, and then Booker with those dropping threes, just been absolutely insane at 31-9. Golden State got Klay Thompson back. Everybody's really talking about Klay Thompson, who's been out for 2 years in a row due to 2 completely different injuries, but now was able to put up, I think he had 29 points yesterday. He was 1 and 3 from the field. He's just starting to get his legs back underneath him. So I don't think Golden State by any means is out of the conversation, even though they did lose to Memphis yesterday. Utah Jazz, they're still missing a lot of players in Utah, but you can never count Donovan Mitchell. We see what they did last season. They went on a run. near the end. Grizzlies, we just talked about them. Dallas Mavericks, I like Luka. I don't like the baby tantrums on the sidelines. Okay, the whole crying and whining stuff. It doesn't.
Yeah, he
doesn't
cries
do
to the
anything
fans.
for me.
He cries to the refs a lot too.
Every single time he has the ball, he wants to whine about it. I almost want to give him a pacifier. But then the Lakers, speaking of pacifier, they were on a roll for a minute. Lakers with LeBron James leading the way. Certainly one of those guys that can impact the game and spread the ball around to those who are sometimes some of the best, and then at times we've seen them fall to be one of the worst. And then we've seen
especially
Denver.
Defensively,
Yeah, especially defensively when that ball breaks down. They haven't figured out quite what that lineup will look like as they head further down past the halfway season. But I suspect there's going to be some roster changes, could be some moves before trade deadline. Oh, did I say Westbrook? No. So we look at the Denver Nuggets at 20-19, 500 caliber ball, but yesterday it looked really, really good. I was kind of I was impressed. The Joker, draining everything. But they're missing. They're just missing a lot of key players. Porter Jr.'s out with a back issue. Some key guys that really would be just that much better and maybe go on a run. But unfortunately, those guys are out for the season. So they're. The games are still live. They're still out there. People are still attending them. I think it just depends on what state you're in. But I think overall, the state of the midseason kind of looks like where we thought they would be right about now in the Eastern and Western Conference.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's a lot to play out. We'll see. Real quick, we got to do the meme of the day. I saw these memes. These came to us from NFL memes _IG. Who's going to tell him that he's got the wrong hat on? My man had on the Alabama National Championship hat. That is absolutely ridiculous. And then this meme, this says, you're invited to Ben Roethlisberger's his retirement party hosted by the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium this Sunday.
I seen that.
I thought you were like that, man. I thought you were like
that. No. It ain't going to happen. That's my upset pick for the weekend.
So real quick, Rudy Reyes, let them know where they can find you at, man.
Yeah, go to the RudeDogShow.com. Follow me at RudeDogReyes on Twitter. Like it, love it, but never leave it. Share it because, well, we love you.
Yes, we do. And you can find me on IG at BarryLong_2, on Twitter at BarryLong, at Radio Barry Long, and on Facebook at Barry Long _II. Remember, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, you're capable of doing anything. So go out and do it. We'll holler at you tomorrow at noon right here on CoachellaValley.com. Thanks. Peace.